this news, a White House official and an aide to House Speaker Nancy Pelosi have tested positive for COVID. Both were vaccinated and reportedly came into contact with a group of Texas lawmakers who fled to Washington last week to make a political point.
We don't regret coming to D.C. at all.
2 new cases surfaced with an administration official and a staffer for House Speaker Nancy Pelosi.
Well, I'll tell you, that's certainly where this story starts, but definitely not where it ends. You know, we've covered this from day one, and what the Democrats just did ended Biden's reign. Biden's done. Democrats just exposed, they demolished, and they revealed and reversed their own COVID-19 progress that they've been working so hard on, and they did it to themselves. Nobody else did this for them. There's nobody else to blame. Trump is out of the building. No, it's only them to blame now. Now, the mainstream media will spin these two unbelievable turn of events, which should be spread across all major news headlines, but that's not what we get, of course. No, they're going to try to spin, they're going to try to get talking points, and Jen Psaki proves that time and time again, but I'm going to give you the real facts, because if anyone, it doesn't matter what side of the aisle, it's not about what you want to do or not want to do. It's not what this broadcast is about. It's about the simple fact, if you stand for something, truth can set you free, or it can imprison you, one or the other. And we have so many people who've been lying for so long to the American people, manipulating facts, using convenient truths, spinning the narratives. Well, now they can't get out of it anymore. They've created an entire web of deceit that they've now been trapped in by themselves, nobody else. I'm going to show you that here. Before I go any further, you're at Restricted Republic. I can't thank you enough for being here. If you haven't subscribed to the platform you're watching this on, it would mean the world to me if you could, because they don't help me share anything. Plain and simple. Only you can help share my videos and spread the word. Unfortunately, if you have any reasonable or moderate voice nowadays, that's simply not allowed. Follow the narrative or do nothing. But to that point, it's why we created Restricted Republic, where you're allowed to hear unfiltered and uncensored news. I don't ask for donations. No, I provide you what you see on your screen right now. Something in return, along with Lisa Haven, a mass amount of news that is no longer allowed anywhere else. So we created our own platform. We went the extra mile for you. Right now, 2 discount codes. Discount code FREEDOM, $5 a month, 24 months, 14 days for free. Put that in monthly checkout or annual checkout. Put in Save 10 and get $10 off the annual subscription. All subscriptions auto-renew. Comments, unfiltered, uncensored, amazing. I know what freedom of speech was meant to sound like. Get over to Restricted Republic. Help support the effort so we can continue to provide you the news that matters. So let's jump into this without further ado. Runaway Texas Dems derailed as outbreak spreads to White House and Pelosi's office. But there appears to be a lot more to this story. Things they're not completely telling you as normal. Jen Psaki rejects super spreader, praises attention. Well, we'll get there shortly. Now 6 members, or more than 10%, very important number. More than 10% of the caucus from Texas has contracted COVID-19, fueling a White House scare, eclipsing the civil rights narrative, jeopardizing their chances of meeting President Biden, and prompting Republicans to accuse the legislatures of stoking a super spreader event, and rightfully so. Remember this, please. Now 6 members, or more than 10%. Why is that number so critical? Because when you are going to be the ministry of truth, when you're going to put mass restrictions down on this great republic, when you're going to put down mandates, when you're going to be promoting everything you're doing to counter COVID-19, it is imperative you are perfectly accurate on your data, because you're the one stating, follow the science. Now, more than 6 members, more than 10%. Why I say that's a critical number? Because if you're going to follow the science, and your lead scientist, Anthony Fauci, who's going to take shape much more in the end of this story, yet he would have the statistics, right? 90 to 95% effective, he stated. I'll actually go to the quote. This was on Business Today. American physician and immunologist Anthony Fauci has said that Pfizer's coronavirus vaccine, which has been developed in collaboration with Germany's biotech, has an extraordinarily high degree of efficacy. More than 90%. Close to 95%, Fauci said during an interview. Well, if you're going to help with the COVID-19 pandemic, then it's really important that you get your facts straight. Now, more than 10%. Close to 95% effective. Let me zoom in on that. You see how the little details provided by one side is working against one side because one side decided to go illegally out of their state to Washington, D.C., creating this event, and now we have what we have. White House official Pelosi aide tests positive for COVID. Why am I stating this? I'm going to tell you why here. Representative Vern Buchanan, Republican out of Florida, on Monday announced he had tested positive for the coronavirus after being fully vaccinated, becoming the first known positive case in Congress this summer. Brian Monahan, the attending physician of Congress, said in a congressional coronavirus update emailed to lawmakers on Tuesday that several congressional staff members and one member of Congress have acquired the infection. So what would that be called? Well, that's what's called a super spreader event. The definition being, one disturbing trend of coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic has been the growing focus on super spreader events, gathering of people where even just a single infection spurs a large outbreak amongst attendees. However, Jen Psaki will not confirm that it was a super spreader event. Actually, she's ignoring it like the plague. No pun on words there. But they had no problem with Donald Trump's super spreader events. Every single time he tried to have any event, it was going to be called a super spreader event. They mocked him. Let me give you some reminders here because we save all these just for your viewing pleasure. The Hollywood Reporter Joe Biden reacts to Trump's COVID-19 diagnosis at town hall. I wasn't surprised. Biden calls Trump a fool for not wearing a mask in coronavirus crisis, failing about his campaign, talking about his events, saying they were going to be super spreader, but I guess it's different now. I guess it's all different. The narrative somehow is magically changed. The Democrats have destroyed the Democrats. That Texas delegation of Democrats decided to go to Washington, D.C. to stand up for rights. But they completely took the legs out from underneath the Biden administration. And this isn't even the end of the information because now it's so bad. The Atlantic, the Washington Post, people within those organizations are also turning the page on this administration because facts matter. And they got to be very black and white. So let's move on to what Jen Psaki has to say about this major event.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Jen. More than 10% of the traveling party with these Texas Democrats now claim to have a breakthrough case. Is there any concern that this trip that was intended to advocate for voting rights is now a super spreader event in Washington?
Well, I would say that's not a characterization we're making from here. We certainly understand there will be breakthrough cases. Even vaccines that are incredibly effective are not foolproof. They're not 100% effective. We've seen that. Here's the good news, though.
I'm not going to give her the good news, Derek, because you just heard again through these two incredible maneuvers. One on Dr. Fauci not getting the percentage right. Two, the Texas delegation showing up in Washington. But yet she still will not admit, A, she has a super spreader event on her hands. B, she will not give the percentage and what America's worried about. You see, these are horrible salespeople. Because if you want to help people like you say you are, it's important that even when you have an anomaly in data, because the science has shifted a little bit, that you admit to your error and show how to remedy it. But no, rather they just use force and mandates to do everything. Horrible salespeople. And trust me, it's on both sides of the aisle. They all need a new sales force. They need a new sales manager because they're just not getting their message across because their facts are tripping them up and they're caught in their own web of non-information or misinformation as they're claiming everybody else does. But they don't want dissent. That's why they're going after the media. Putting this very simply, they want them quieted because they don't want anybody pointing out these very basic, simple errors. I'm not saying anything controversial here. I'm simply pointing out their own data, their own facts, and telling them, hey guys, if you really care, then you gotta change your strategy. Hire a new sales manager because you're really messing up the message.
Know that these vaccines, that these individuals, I think, if I'm correct, have been vaccinated. It means that it protects from death, it protects from serious illness, it protects for the most part from hospitalization. So that is a good sign.
Now that COVID-19, after contact with those Democrats, has reached the White House, what is your message to these Texas Democrats?
Our message continues to be thanks for standing up for voting rights and the rights of Americans to have their voices heard.
She seriously just said that. She seriously just said that. You have everything that you've been working for, everything you've been pushing America towards, everything you've been trying to stop falling apart in your very vicinity. We want to thank everybody for coming to show up to stand up for voting rights. Maybe I should go into PR. Maybe I should help them out. What do you think? Because they can't help themselves anymore. So let's see what else Jen Psaki and Nancy Pelosi have to say about this. I'm sure there's going to be truth somewhere within these statements.
The White House Medical Unit has conducted contact tracing interviews and determined no close contacts among White House principals or staff or the president.
The senior spokesperson infected in Speaker Pelosi's office worked with the Texas delegation last week, but he had no contact with the speaker.
Because all the more reason for all of us to be vaccinated as he was. Wear a mask.
No, once again, we'll fall back on mandates. We'll fall back on any other information and veering of misinformation we can. But let's go forward here because it's starting to crumble on them. It's starting to crumble. When you have the Atlantic come out, millions are saying no to the jab. What are they thinking? Feeling about the jab are intertwined with feelings about the pandemic. They actually go against the administrations here and say in so many words like I have, boy, your sales force needs to be updated. So they take one person in particular, a 24-year-old out of Brooklyn. So what will change their minds? I can't imagine that any amount of hectoring or shaming or proclamations from the public health or democratic communities will make much of a difference for this group. I've lost all faith in the media and public health officials, says Miles Pindus, a 24-year-old in Brooklyn, who told me he is skeptical of the jab and is interested in the Johnson & Johnson jab. It might sound crazy, but I'd rather go to Twitter and check out a few people I trust than take guidance from the CDC or WHO or Fauci. That's a huge statement there. The Atlantic publishes that statement. And why do you think they are? Because they know they have a public relations issue. They have a messaging issue. They have inconsistencies with the very primary topic that they have been focused on intrinsically, which leads you to wonder, is anything that they're promoting right now going to be accurate from infrastructure to taxes? Biden's busted in this one. They literally took his legs out from underneath him. But Biden's been in the forefront on this from the very beginning. Information is power until you forget said information. Biden once, remember, praised Donald Trump's administration for efforts in helping to accelerate the process of bringing the COVID-19 jab to Americans, but then quickly forgets about that narrative, doesn't he? Multiple things, because he can't blame Trump anymore. So he has to do a completely new campaign to attempt to convince the remainder of Americans to get the very treatment that they feel will fix COVID-19. So here's what they're now relying on.
If Olivia Rodrigo tells you to get vaccinated, you get vaccinated.
Here's one that says, I got my first dose of the Fauci ouchie.
Where do they teach you to talk like this? In some Panama City sailor want a hump bar? Or is this getaway day and your last shot at his whiskey? Sell crazy someplace else. We're all stocked up here.
I'm sorry. I couldn't resist, but if that's what you're going to rely on as your PSA funded by American taxpayers, once again, when you pretty much got your saturation so far off your messaging, then we have a critical issue to worry about. That's what you've now gone with the man who's now sitting and getting blasted by Rand Paul so badly that the Washington Post has even come out and said, hey guys, Rand Paul's not wrong. Dr. Fauci is. Oh, yeah. The world's a-changing. And the Biden administration is falling apart. And I'm going to show you just a part of the exchange, and then we'll get to what the statement made by the Washington Post was.
Dr. Fauci, as you are aware, it is a crime to lie to Congress. Section 1001 of the U.S. Criminal Code, you stated that the NIH has not ever and does not now fund gain-of-function research in the Wuhan Institute of Virology.
Well, Fauci didn't respond well. Actually, he lost his ever-loving mind.
Senator Paul, I have never lied before the Congress, and I do not retract that statement. This paper that you are referring to was judged by qualified staff up and down the chain as not being gain of function. Let me finish.
You take an animal virus and you increase its transmissibility to humans.
Right.
You're saying that's not gain of function?
Yeah, that is correct. And Senator Paul, you do not know what you are talking about, quite frankly. And I want to say that officially. You do not know what you are talking about.
So predictable. That's when you lose your cool. And you try to find the little idiosyncrasies that only a scientist would know when you start speaking down to even a senator. That is the arrogance, and unfortunately, what has been guiding much of the policy that the Biden administration is using to sell what they believe is hopefully the cure to COVID-19. So you have a messaging issue. When one of your primary spokespeople issued the amount of arrogance that was shown within that clip, you're not going to sell it to the remainder of the American people, no matter how hard you try. And you simply can't censor, suppress, and call everything against you misinformation when people are simply trying to point out the facts to assure Americans are making educated decisions.
Actually, you do not know what you are talking about.
Which we're allowed to by the Constitution. But let's go to that Washington Post author now, who comes out after that clip and states, hey guys, this is Josh Rogan, by the way, Washington Post columnist, CNN political analyst. Hey guys, Rand Paul was right and Fauci was wrong. The NIH was funding gain-of-function research in Wuhan, but NIH pretended it didn't meet their gain-of-function definition.
Actually, you do not know what you are talking about.
To avoid their own oversight mechanism. Sorry, not sorry, if that doesn't fit your favorite narrative. I cannot tell you, I cannot explain enough to you how large that statement is. When, although we know the Washington Post and their positions on the majority of stories, when you have one columnist within that organization come out and say, guys, sorry, not sorry, but this has to end. Because if we truly want to get America healthy in multiple facets, it's critical that we share the truth and we admit when we make mistakes. Or Biden, again, has a huge issue. And Biden's done. He's being torn up by the very people he propagated to help against the pandemic. But it went a step further with Rand Paul, didn't it? Because he didn't stop there.
Is it your belief, based on the evidence, Senator, that he lied before Congress and broke the law?
Yes, and I will be sending a letter to the Department of Justice asking for a criminal referral because he has lied to Congress.
Uh-oh. Fauci's got another ouchie coming because it's not stopping it. I know who they'll rely on. They'll rely on the mainstream media to try to spin this story, but unfortunately, fortunately, sorry, not sorry, the American people are waking up. 58% of likely U.S. voters say media is the enemy of the people. Plurality doesn't trust political news sources. So, what does that mean? You have now seen, through two incredible maneuvers, one caused by the Texas Democrat delegation, the other caused by Fauci and Rand Paul, and incorrect information. And now you have the American people saying 58% of us, yeah, we don't trust that media so much. The main propagator of these stories, which they pick, they will uprank or downrank. They're taking conservatism, trying to shovel out our voices, downstacking us, although we're just providing the same information in a different light than the mainstream media sources are, because we don't believe in the same narrative and storyline being propagated, doesn't mean that we're providing any information different than they are, however, in a different context. So now they've lost that media support. It's why I say Biden's done if this continues and America continues to wake up and don't stand for the status quo narrative. It is okay to question. And that's all we've ever done here. Question to assure accuracy, to assure the safety of America long-term rather than short-term solutions that are now proving out not to be 100% accurate. Fairly simple, huh? Stop selling, you're crazy here. Stop selling, you're crazy here. I swear I'm still going to run at some point because I just can't take that we haven't. Simple solutions, truthful answers, And a lack of lies can get you really far in life. I love you all. I'm going to take a deep breath now. I hope if you haven't gone over to support me at Restricted Republic, you will. I hope you enjoyed these messages. I hope the information gives you a breath of fresh air so you know you're not alone. And things are moving, just a lot slower than we'd like them to. If you haven't subscribed to the platform here, please do. And I'm getting ahead of myself, tripping over my own words. And to everybody last night, I told you this would be a phenomenal broadcast, and now you see it was. At least I hope you believe that. I love you all. And until next time, Godspeed and God bless. Justus Knight, signing out.